late game heroics, an upset victory, and a blowout win. We had a little of each this past week in Fredericksburg area high school football. We will review week 2 and preview week 3 coming up on this week's installment of Varsity 360, and it starts right now. Hello there everyone, Mark Coleman here from V2SN, welcoming you for a look at the week's top stories in Fredericksburg area high school football. We call it Varsity 360. Very happy that you found us here at Fredericksburg.com, and happy to announce that you can find us each week in the upper left corner of FLSVarsity.com, including archives of all of the Varsity 360 shows. FLS Varsity, of course, part of the Freelance Stars sports department. I have the great pleasure each week of chatting with some of the very good folks from this group. They have a special place in their heart for high school sports, and I really enjoy being able to chat with them about it. Let's bring them in. This week we have Assistant Sports Editor from the Freelance Star, Mr. Justin Rice. Justin, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, Mark. Here again till I get it right.
We'll keep trying. And we have Sports Reporter Extraordinaire, Mr. Taft Coghill, Jr. Taft, you got business cards printed up?
Not yet, but
working on it.
Working on
it. Awesome. Well, we had some exciting games around the region this past week, including a nail-biter. It came down to nearly the last play. Close game between North Stafford and James Monroe. Justin?
Yeah, this was, I think, definitely the premier matchup of this week. You have James Monroe is now 1-1. North Stafford improves to 2-0. Just a great game. James Monroe actually outgains North Stafford 431 yards to 219 over the course of the game, but some turnovers turn out big. North Stafford gets 3 interceptions, including Knocking Morton in the final 2 minutes that leads to the go-ahead touchdown at the end. Malachi Harrison with 137 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, and Trey Hurd for North Stafford also with a 35-yard interception return. A great win for North Stafford's defense. What did we learn? I'm not sure. James Monroe, again, still a lot of Scroggins, which is going to be okay. I'm sure they want to run the ball still. And I think some offensive question marks for North Stafford. Wolverines' defense looks really good. That was a real strong matchup. I think a good game, and 2 of definitely the better teams it's looking like.
So JM was able to get a little bit of running out of Keyshawn Johnson, actually, on some sort of end around, an 84-yard touchdown run that he ran for or went for. You feel like that's going to open up the running for them any? Are they they're trying to be creative?
Yeah, I think, though, it's not so much, even last year when they had such struggles running the ball, it's not the big play run. Scroggins gets out of a pocket and breaks a big run. I think what JM wants to find is the consistent, boring, here's 5 yards, that guy. That's the guy they're still looking for. I'm sure that's the guy they'll keep trying to find. But, and you look at this one and you go, JM, you lost this game, but it's 27-23 against a very good Division V team. JM, quality loss, certainly. I'm sure JM doesn't see it that way, but a quality and a loss nonetheless, and one they can build on, and they'll have another good chance. Another big test against Mountain View this week.
Yeah. Colonial Forge actually had a big test this week after an opening week loss. Briarwoods came to town and visited. Colonial Forge pulled off what I think is a pretty good upset here. They pulled this one out 27-20.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, you can almost count Colonial Forge with 3 halves. They lost the first game, then they lost the first half of this game, right, and then the second half of this one, they finally wake up big. They're down 13-7 at the half, and then they come back, and Ramon Miller, their big running back, had 8 rushing yards in the first half, 100 in the second half. Gary Jennings finishes with 3 touchdowns rushing and a touchdown passing. That's 2 touchdowns rushing and a touchdown passing in the second half. And Jacob Bradford on defense, couple sacks, couple quarterback hurries. I think the defense really came to play, especially out of the break, and that was maybe the big difference for Colonial Forge this week. And again, just like we said with JM, that JM had a loss they could build on. Colonial Forge with a big win they can build on, I think, from here.
How important was this win after that opening week loss? It was they really did not want to go 0-2.
Well, I think most importantly, you can quantify it. No Colonial Forge team has ever started 0-2 and made the playoffs. So pretty important to come back and bounce back.
Is this where I insert one of the VHSL reference statistics that you don't like?
Sure.
That was last week, right? I actually don't have one.
You don't have one? It's not a good one. 3rd regular season loss in 3 years for Briarwoods. Very good team. Very good win for Colonial Forge. we're going to see Briarwoods again against North Stafford here very soon.
A game matching up two teams with something to prove. Riverbend coming off a win and moving into the top 5. Cortland on a loss and dropping out played each other. We've got video highlights from this game. Fans, remember, encourage your coaches or athletic directors to provide me with video highlights from their games. We would love to get it into Varsity 360. They can email me. I am mark@v2sn.com. You can tweet me at Mark Coleman V2SN. We'd love to get those video highlights in. We have highlights from the Cortland Riverbend game. Let's take a look at them now.
And there you go. Jabari Allen is the second play of the game, and he's going to find Jeremy Hokinson on a deep pass.
Yeah, Hokinson, freelance star player of the week this week, 97-yard touchdown reception there, which is a school record. Also had to line up and kick the extra point right after that.
And then the kickoff after that.
And then the kickoff after that. Also
Wow.
had 2 field goals on the day.
Yeah, here you go. I'd be gassed. I know that for sure. Here we go. Still in the first half. This is going to be
Anton Jenkins.
Anton Jenkins up the middle here for Cortland, sort of extending their lead.
Yeah, Jenkins is the power out of that trio of Green and Cheatham, and now you get to see Green.
Yeah, watch this play by Green. This is a great effort here coming around the end on the sweep, and he's going to make a reach for the goal line.
Yeah, Green diving for the pylon there gets to show off some of his athleticism and the reason Virginia Tech wants him as a recruit.
Yeah, absolutely. Good player. All three of those guys.
So Cortland goes up early, 21-0. Riverbend tries to make a game of it. Jordan DeMarco hits Chris Pritchett on a slant. Pritchett takes it 65 yards to the house to put Riverbend on the board, but it was not enough. Riverbend ends up falling big, actually, to Cortland. As I mentioned, Cortland had something to prove. The Cougars win this one 40-14. George Cheatham ended up with 123 yards rushing. This Cortland team certainly looked like they were out to show that first week was a little bit of an aberration there.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to rebound. Coach J.C. Hall said he wanted to come out throwing haymakers, and that 97-yarder to Hokinson, that certainly qualifies.
Absolutely. We also had Eastern View playing Chancellor, sort of a mighty Chancellor team, or at least a feisty Chancellor team, let's say. Eastern View ended up winning this one 38-23.
Yeah, it ended up being a lot closer than many people anticipated. Chancellor was hanging right in there, 32-23, with about 9 minutes to go in the game. But Kendrick QB, he took over once again, 216 rushing yards, coming off of that 414 yards, 6 touchdown performance. And Josh Stallings may not be the guy with the strongest arm, but he certainly gets the ball in the right places to his receivers, threw 30 times for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns.
600 yards in 2 games. You'll never guess who's leading the area in rushing.
Only 2 scores this time, though. Six scores last week. He's a bit off. Yeah.
We heard he was out with some cramps throughout the game as well. So.
Well, in other games from around the area, King George took on Stafford, an exciting game, and we have video highlights from this one as well. Justin?
We love video highlights. Here we go. This is going to be King George now with their single wing offense, and gosh, I love the single wing. Here comes Jacoby White coming around the right side, going to take this one 66 yards. Taft, you saw these guys earlier this year.
Yeah, they were in a shootout against Washington Lee, lost in overtime 46-44, but this is a nice bounce back win to get a quality win over a 6A team.
Yeah, against a D6 team, lots of points here. Stafford's got an answer. This is sophomore Daniel Smith. He's going to field this kick from the 3. He's going to run a long, long way.
Yeah, that's great to see Stafford making those type of plays. They probably haven't seen that type of speed since another Smith return kicks there, Torrey Smith.
Yeah. Wow, no lofty comparison there. I think Stafford making plays is the key, by the way. King George here, this is the deciding play. King George with the ball, Zach Johnson, and his fumble is going to find the right guy. Jacoby Smith going to scoop this thing up and keep going, 25 more yards for the touchdown. King George is going to walk away with the win.
King George ends up pouring it on in the end, 35-17, the final score there. White with 156 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns for the Foxes.
Yeah.
In other area action, number 1, Massaponax, you talk about running all over Albemarle. Albemarle put up 4 touchdowns. Final score 62-28. Ponax 615 yards rushing in this game. Justin, you were at this game.
Well, and in fairness to Massaponax's defense, it was 28-0. Massaponax is one of those games where the Panthers could have picked a number and said, we're going to run for this many yards. Some of Albemarle's scores came against Massaponax's backups and so on. Bo Fields, Joey Benden, these guys ran all day, almost could not be stopped. They had, I think, 25 first-half first downs or some extraordinary number like that. the Massaponax offense was outstanding against Albemarle.
Looking at the box score, I think they had like 12 different ball carriers or something like that. So, the water boy might have gotten into this game, I believe.
Typical Massaponax offense, handed to a lot of people. And I was talking to a coach after the game. Gosh, I would love to see what happens if they ever had a game where they just handed it to Bo Fields 40 times and see how many yards he'd go for. 15 carries, 183 yards, and really was not stopped.
Albemarle had a nice performance from Kevin McCarthy, 104 yards rushing and a touchdown. He also had a 93-yard kick return for a touchdown.
I know they're sort of fringe for us, maybe even out of the area. That's one of the best. I've seen Albemarle for a couple of years now. They've been sort of up and down. That's one of the best Albemarle football players I've seen in a long time.
All right.
Good ball player.
Good.
Yeah.
Brook Point met up with a very talented Highland Springs team and lost that one 51-12. It sounds like Brook Point made a pretty good showing, though.
Yeah, I think they were only down 7 at halftime, and Highland Springs, the team coming off a victory over Colonial Forge the prior week, so you know what type of team that is. And so if not for a lot of penalties, I think Brook Point might have hung in even a little longer.
Okay. Damone Drew with a nice day running the ball, 23 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown rushing for Brook Point. Other area games, Mountain View with a 21-16 victory over Lee Davis.
Big fourth quarter stand in that one for Mountain View's defense. A win they needed after the loss to Varina again. Don't want to start 0-2. Good bounce back for Mountain View.
Absolutely, yeah. And then a couple of, no way to sugarcoat it. Disappointing losses. Caroline falls to Henrico 48-0, and Liberty really just demolishes Orange 65-0 there. Close game also in the area. Fredericksburg Christian with a 23-22 victory over Nansemond. It sounds like this is an exciting team they've got there.
I think Fredericksburg Christian has, with some of their transfers and some of these talented kids they got in there, it's going to be a fun FCS team. I think maybe a deep playoff run, or at least they got a good chance for it.
Good games in the area this past week. Well, we do have some exciting games on the docket for Week 3, and it starts with Mountain View taking on JM. How good of a chance do the Wildcats have here against the Yellow Jackets?
The first thing I see when I see this game is, gosh, JM plays a hard schedule.
Yeah, no kidding.
Stafford, North Stafford, Mountain View. Someday they're going to play a Division III team, maybe somebody who they're numerically paired against. This is going to be a good game. Another tough matchup. Another chance for JM to work on that running game against a team that probably will have a size advantage, at least certainly a number superiority. It's good in that respect. And then you got Mountain View, I think, is another team that started 0-1, good bounce back last week. Another good chance for them to try to establish things and so on. And I'm sure they want to get their running game going and get their offense to where they want it to be. This is the best matchup in the area this week, I think, involving two local teams. I think there are some other good games too.
Yeah.
But this is a real good one for the two local teams. And Sorrentino and Rich Survey, of course, they've got ties going back. We wrote a great story about it last year. You can still find that on our archive. Great story about their time learning to be coaches together. I know they're still friends and buddies. And this is going to be a good one to watch on a Friday night.
Burris going to be back 100%. He did play last week.
Yeah, it seems like that's probably in the past, and there's no reason that I know of that we're not going to see all those guys out there healthy and ready to go.
Okay.
Both teams firing all weapons. Let's see what happens. I think the result here is very similar to North Stafford, JM. Close game, going to come down to a play or two in the final minute. This will be a good one.
Should be an exciting game, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Another game that almost certainly is going to be exciting, Colonial Forge, they get to go on the road and take on Hermitage. This should be a barn burner here.
Yeah, Hermitage is still quite bitter about that defeat last year when they believed that Colonial Forge missed the extra point that would have given Hermitage the win. They went on about that for quite a while to no avail, but Bill Brown and Colonial Forge certainly took that win and moved on and had a great run. But I think Hermitage up at their place in Richmond, I think they're looking for some payback.
I think the key here, the key thing to take from this is, for Colonial Forge, you had you had Highland Springs, you had Briarwoods,
right,
and now you've got Hermitage. You just couldn't go 0-3 in that stretch. I think the pressure now in that stretch is sort of off. Don't go 0-3. They've won one of them. Now you come back, now you get two of them, and you're in real good shape going into their Commonwealth District opponents. So a big win for Colonial Forge, but I think coming back in the second half like they did in beating Briarwoods takes the pressure off this week for sure.
Okay. We'll talk about pressure. Riverbend really laid an egg last week against Cortland. King George came back after a disappointing loss in week 1 with a big victory over Stafford. The Foxes and the Bears. Taft, what do you think?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game as well. I believe last year Riverbend won, I think 42-17. But King George, they're another year in with that single wing, and Riverbend had a little bit of problem stopping that wing T last week at Cortland. So it'll be interesting to see how their defense responds to Jacoby White and all those guys.
Yeah, big contrasting styles. Last year, Riverbend, Eric Bird got off to a real hot start in this game. They hit some deep passes, got the ball moving through the air, and sort of were in control. But last year in that game, when King George switched to the single wing during the game, they moved the ball on Riverbend. It'd be interesting to see if they can do it again here this Friday.
It should be an exciting contrast in styles, absolutely. I tell you what, folks, if you're looking for something to do on Friday night and you're not at a game, or you are at a game and you have a smartphone, internet accessible, you can listen into the game at riverbendsportsnetwork.com. I actually know the guy who's going to be calling this game. It's me. riverbendsportsnetwork.com will be streaming live King George Foxes at Riverbend Bears. So should be fun. Should be an exciting game.
I think so.
Another exciting matchup, interesting matchup at least, that we've got this week. Some interesting reunions here in the storyline in this game. Louisa on the road visiting Cortland.
Yeah, first, there are two things to note here. The Louisa coach, Mark Fisher, he really likes to play Cortland. He and J.C. Hall are great friends, and he really likes to play Cortland as a test for themselves. And I know outside of winning games and making the playoffs and probably winning some Jefferson District rivalry games, he wants to beat Cortland. And I know that he wants to play that game. And then you get a little added spice this year, of course. Breck Hall is J.C. Hall's younger brother. Breck, we featured quarterbacks in a preseason edition, and we called Breck the greatest quarterback in Cortland history. I still think that's a fair assessment. Breck is now the defensive coordinator at Louisa, hired over there this year when Mark Fisher returned to Mineral to coach the Lions, and he gets Breck and scoops him up from Cortland and brings him over to Louisa, coach the defense over there.
How much of an impact can that have when a guy like that who knows that offense inside and out?
I think that's a good question. And when you talk to Mark Fisher about defense, he'll insist he does not know anything about defense. And he wants to have somebody capable he can hand it over, somebody he can trust. And I think with Breck, he has that. He gave me that impression in the preseason, that he thinks Breck Hall is knowledgeable and has been around enough that he can say, the defense is yours, make it work. And, of course, Breck surely knows the wing T. He's seen it, practiced against it, practiced with it. Played it, absolutely. I think Breck definitely knows the wing T. We'll see. I think that's a good matchup there.
At a minimum, he understands the keys and knows where the weaknesses are.
Certainly. He's been in film rooms while they're breaking down their own wing T.
Right.
I think he's going to sort of be able to know. So, probably maybe an edge, maybe a check mark to Louisa there. But, gosh, the Cortland offense, we've seen two different Cortland offenses. We've seen sort of the Massaponax Cortland offense, which struggled a little bit, and then we've seen them against Riverbend, and they looked really, really sharp and really good. We saw it earlier here on tape. If you get the second game Cortland offense, it's going to be tough for Louisa to keep up with that, I think.
Yeah, it'd be tough for Louisa to match that personnel, even if they do.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a tough matchup, yeah.
So week 3 looks like it's going to be another exciting week around the Fredericksburg area for high school football. Certainly hope that you get a chance to get out and catch at least one game. Remember that you can also listen into the game at Riverbend at riverbendsportsnetwork.com. And check back next week right here for the next installment of Varsity 360. As always, very pleased, very thankful to have the good folks from the Freelance Star Sports Department here with me. We've got Taft, Coghill, Justin Rice, fellas, as always. A lot of fun. It's good to see those videos, huh?
It is good to see the videos.
Tell your athletic director, tell your head coach that you want to see videos of your team on Varsity 360. We'd love to be able to do that for you. We'll see you next week for the Virginia Varsity Sports Network. I'm Mark Coleman. Thanks for watching, everyone.